50,000 explosions a second. Inside the most expensive factory tool ever sold, a droplet of molten tin, 30 times smaller than a human hair. It is hit by a laser so precisely and so violently that it turns to plasma hotter than the surface of the sun, 50,000 times a second. Why? Because that's the only way humanity has found to make the light that prints a modern chip. One company on Earth can build this machine. This is Under the Hood. Today, the light the whole digital economy funnels through. Start with the problem. A chip is printed like a photograph. Shine light through a stencil of the circuit onto a silicon wafer coated in light-sensitive chemistry. Simple. Except, a feature on a modern chip is a few dozen atoms wide, and you cannot print a line finer than the light you print it with. Ordinary ultraviolet hits a wall. To go smaller, you need extreme ultraviolet, light with a wavelength of 13.5 nanometers. And nature is openly hostile to it. This light is absorbed by air, absorbed by glass, absorbed by basically everything. You can't use lenses. You can't even use a room. The machine has to work in a vacuum, steering the light with the smoothest mirrors ever manufactured. So here's what it takes to print with impossible light. The tin droplets struck twice by the laser mid-flight to shape the explosion. Collectors that gather the flash and pass it across mirrors polish so flat that, scaled to the size of a country, the tallest bump would be millimeters high. Positioning systems that move wafers with the smoothness of nothing else on Earth while staying accurate to atoms. The finished machine weighs about as much as 2 airliners, ships in fragments that fill several jumbo jets, and costs on the order of $200 million, the newest generation nearly double that. It is very possibly the most complicated device human beings mass produce. And mass produce is generous. They make a few dozen a year. Now the economics. ASML, a Dutch company spun out of Philips in the 1980s, spent over 20 years and tens of billions getting EUV to work, most of that time with no working product and real doubt it was possible at all. Its American and Japanese rivals looked at the same physics and walked away. And the machine's guts are not really one company's work. The light source from a San Diego firm ASML eventually bought outright, the mirrors from Zeiss in Germany, a supplier relationship a century old, lenses, stages, software, thousands of suppliers welded into one irreplaceable chain. A patent can be licensed, a price can be undercut, but 20 years of accumulated craft spread across an entire supply chain that answers to one integrator, that cannot be copied at any price. Monopoly by difficulty. Put the funnel on screen. Every advanced processor, the chip in your phone, the accelerators training every large AI model, the silicon in cars and data centers, must, at its finest layers, pass under an EUV machine. No EUV step, no modern chip. Which means the machine's entire output for years ahead is spoken for by a handful of manufacturers. And when governments talk about chip sovereignty, export bans, and $100 billion fabs, they are, underneath it all, negotiating access to the light. The AI boom's real bottleneck isn't ideas or even money. It's photons and one company's calendar. Under the Hood always ends the same way. What breaks it? Not a competitor, the moat is time itself. The real risks live inside the funnel. The machine's own suppliers are single points of failure. The customers are concentrated on one island the world argues over, and physics eventually offers a different path, as it always does. The day someone prints atoms without light, this empire meets its own episode of market memory. Until then, remember the shape. When an industry's entire future must pass through one door, the company holding the door doesn't need to win the future. It collects rent on everyone who does. That's Under the Hood. Next episode, the memory chips stacked like skyscrapers that decide how fast AI can think. Follow so you don't miss it. Full library at agenticsovereigncapital.com. Education, not investment advice.